Scaling your consulting business, that's the topic for this week. How do you go from just you to a substantial business, if that's what you want? Coming right up. So I'm assuming that you've been in consulting a little while, or you're thinking of getting into consulting. And one of the things that you need to be asking yourself is, how do I scale this business? Now, you might not be planning on scaling. You might just want to be, operating on your own, servicing your clients. That's probably a little bit more like contracting. But if you plan to actually grow your consulting business, there are some distinct phases that you need to go through, and you really need to put some thought about resourcing. So I'm going to talk through 3 distinct phases and kind of how that I've done that in my own consulting business over the last 25 years or so. Okay. Just as an aside, when I started my own consulting business 25 years back, I started with a business partner, and just a tip here, we actually drew out the organisational structure of the business that we wanted to see in 5 years' time. So when we started, there was 2 of us, but we drew out the organisational chart for the business 5 years down the track. We actually pulled it out, I think, about 7 years later, and funnily enough, that's what we had. That was the structure. Why is that important? Because you need to kind of visualize what you see the business as looking like. And that initial organization chart, guess what? It had 2 names in all the boxes. So I was MD, CFO, project delivery, whatever, and he had, an equal number of equal number of boxes with his name in it. So we envisaged what it was going to look like. Our names were in all the boxes, and then gradually over the years, other people's names went into those boxes. So have that sort of view of what the business is going to look like, what your end goal is. And what are these 3 phases then that we're talking about? So I've mentioned this a few times in other videos. Your focus initially has got to be on service delivery. Delivering great outcomes for your clients, growing your client base, growing your individual client accounts and so on. So you're going to need more consultants on board. And that's a continual process throughout the life of your consulting business, to be honest. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. If you are bootstrapping your consulting business, in other words, you're funding it, yourself and from cash flow. You want to try and minimize the cash outlay, obviously. So what you could do is to hire in contractors initially to help you, and then you can transition those to employees later on if that suits you. That's certainly something I did in the early days. And then gradually you can build your team like that. You've got to build your capability to deliver a greater volume of services if you're going to grow your business. So that's generally the first critical phase. The second phase then, and as the business owner, is to get yourself away from the back office and away from doing the non-value adding tasks. I mean, I don't want to be derogatory about accountants or anything, but the lifeblood of a consulting business is sales and service delivery. Without that, the business doesn't survive. And generally, it's the founder of the business who's very good at that. So find some experts that you can delegate the back office functions to. So again, with admin, when I started 25 years ago, I took on a part-time bookkeeper, for example. I was doing all the sort of client invoicing and things like that. That became then a full-time accountant, and then gradually the admin team grew. So I started off outsourcing it in effect, having contractors or whatever, and then the in-house employee team grew and grew and grew. I actually have quite a substantial back office staff now. I tend to lose track. I think about 15 or something. But that's, you build that over time. The third element, and I would argue that perhaps this should be the second element, is growing your marketing capability. When I started my business 25 years ago, marketing was hard. It was expensive. It was a lot of print advertising, that kind of stuff. Now it's so much easier. Online, you can be very cost effective. So I think I'd have that in parallel with growing my admin team. I'd be growing my marketing team. And again, you can outsource that initially. That's not a long-term solution for me. I want to have a lot more control and input to the marketing, but it's certainly a good way to start. So outsource it, have some contractors helping you, but then you want to be building your own in-house team as well. I won't tell you how big our marketing team is, you would be flabbergasted, but our marketing team is probably the size of a business 10 times our size. One, I just love marketing. It's a bit of a passion of mine. And two, I know how to make marketing work. And if I'm going to invest anything in my business, it tends to be more into marketing. So that's a really important sort of leg of your, let's think of it as a three-legged stool. You know, you've got the delivery services, you've got the admin, you've got the marketing. That's a really important leg on that three-leg stool. That's basically how I grew my business. I mean, I started 25 years ago with just two of us, the two founders. We were doing all the service delivery, the sales, the admin, the marketing. And then gradually over time, we've built out the team. The team is now 50 or 60 people. So this strategy of building out and growing your business absolutely works. So let me just ask you a question before we close out on this video. What size is your consulting business now in terms of headcount? And what do you plan it to be? Just curious to see how many of you watching are quite happy to be just one or two consultants, or have you got grand plans to grow from 2 to 100 to 1,000 or whatever? I'd love to hear down below. That will also help me gear these videos to make sure that we're providing just the sort of topics that you want to hear from. So thanks for watching. If you're not subscribed, do hit that subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.